All right, let's start this off. Why not? So I'm gonna do a little intro here first of all. That's fair. So folks, welcome into Gordo's Games here. My name is Gordo, and we are back with something different here. We're going to be doing a tier list with myself in the chat. Now, this tier list is not anything particular. It's on our journey so far here at Gordo's Games, and if you want to see any of the runs that we're talking about, they will be linked in the description down below. You can catch them as SLC, or go into the YouTube and sift through all the madness. But welcome in. Fun fact, Bully was called Canis Comedit. It was also called that, and one of the ones I had here actually. So we're going to be going through it in no particular order. I'm going to go through these as per the images I've grabbed. All right. There may be some overlap, and you'll see some games that kind of overlap from each other. We'll cover them as we go because we've ran multiple areas within that game, so we will be talking around them as we go. Now, for context, some of the things that we're going to be looking at when we're rating these and coming to the agreement as a collective is going to be the fun aspect. So to myself as a runner, and for yourself as a viewer, so the viewers that we have here are going to be helping on that part and chiming in where needed. But we're going to decide how fun it was, and if it was a positive or a negative for us, and it'll help with our placement. The replayability, so whether or not it was something you'd want to go back to, or as a kind of a one and done, as like, okay, I've done the run now again, do I want to do it again? No, it wasn't that fun, or it wasn't, replayability and fun kind of intertune with each other a little bit, so that might get covered off there. The length of the run. So a lot of these are actually going to overlap, but we're breaking down into these segments a little bit. So the length of the run, so like if it's a hell of a lot of commitment, if it takes a while to just grind it down to a point where it's reasonable. So like for myself here, I always only have an allocated amount of time for me to get runs done. So I had to try and pick something that fits one of those, apart from the times when I was having days to actually commit to them. So yeah, stuff like that. RNG is going to be another part to it, which personally, obviously we like the RNG aspect. I mean, I do particularly. Yeah, RNGs, and that's going to be based around the context of whether the RNG was good for the game or if it was just like outright bad. If it was just a run destroyer and anything like that. I think that was the context we're going to go with there. Yeah, I know it was RNG lol. Remember how long we got stuck there in Final Fantasy 1? I'm pretty sure, Project, you had to help me with stickers by bonking the box. I think we have a clip of that somewhere. Downtime and runs. So how much time we spend like stuck in loading screens or stuck in cutscenes and stuff like that. The flow of the run, if it flows well, or if it's quite jarring, you're all over the place. Praise be the RNGesus, that's right. And then skippable cutscenes. If a game has skippable cutscenes, it's an automatic positive from a speedrun aspect. Now, it doesn't mean that it's a negative for the ones that do have it as much. It's just that it does slightly favour those who do allow you just to go ahead and skip. So, let's begin. So the first one here we have on our list is going to be Shadow of War. How's it going, Sancho? Welcome in. You caught at the right time. So Shadow of War we did multiple runs for, and we will get to those other ones as we go along. But for this one here, we are including the Act 1 run and the full run itself. So in terms of the run for myself, I personally found it to be a fun run. I felt that there's enough stuff for me to do. I wasn't bored whilst I was doing it. I enjoyed the concept of the game and what it had to bring. The interactions with the different captains and that, all the different missions, that the flow of the game was good as well for me. For yourself as viewers, what was your thoughts? That's going to be the question, because for me, I consider it fun. High B, low A. Okay. A. Okay, so A. So in terms of fun, we're going A. RNG was rough. So alright, so I agree. A is suitable. I don't think it was S tier. But I do think it was definitely an enjoyable game to go through. RNG, I would likely say I'd put it as a D. The RNG, it was good for the game, but it literally could just kill a run out of nowhere. It was quite tragic how bad things could just go in that. You know, being clocked by one thingy, not getting a last chance, or a captain being immune to absolutely everything. Because, I mean, it's not always a high amount of RNG with the captain. Some of them have the static kind of things for them. But in general, it was a case of there was enough irritation there. It's like if they was immune to being stunned, or if they had a shield, or if they was immune to arrows, and it's like RNG could kill the late game too, which sucked ass. Yeah, okay. So RNG is a D. In terms of length, now we're categorizing two here. So this is the glitchless run and the Act 1. Oh yeah, Captain Immunities are kind of, yes, they are. That's where they are for an RNG aspect side of things. It was a bit of a killer, like 100%. Rise in his peak. Wicked, do you just get intrusive thoughts and just shout words? Okay, replayability. I'm gonna go B. I think the game was playable, but you certainly had to be in the mood for it. I know I'm saying like this, like I didn't spend my time chasing the world records for it. Low B, high C. Okay. I think, yeah, I definitely think a B. Also, I'm noting these as we go, and we'll go through this. This whole thing may go on for a bit, but you know, it's fine. It's fine. That's the whole point. Any further takes on that? Low B or high C for yourselves? For me, it was definitely playable and enjoyable. But it wasn't one you could hammer every single. You couldn't just go run back to back. And I think that was mainly because of the RNG. Because it's like, well, okay, now I screwed that now. And how you will move them as you place others. Yeah, true. I mean, we may do. We may turn around and say, well, you know what? Thinking about that, because that was there, we may move it around. We're going to go through these as we go. I think overall I go low B, low B still. Okay. Downtime in runs. We didn't really have much downtime. Flows well. Yes, I think it did. And we had skip cutscenes. So, we're going to stick for B for now. Are we all agreed? Yes. Alright, now we only did Alone in the Dark. Now this was based off the newer Alone in the Dark, not the older ones. This was the newer one with Hopper from Stranger Things, who was in it. Some of you may not know this run. Some of you may have not seen this run. Those who have been here for a while would have come across it. Now, in terms of fun, I'm going to put it as a B for me, first of all. I enjoyed it. It was just a heavy puzzle game, more so. And most of it was just remembering where to go more so than anything else. There wasn't like a heavy amount of combat. I don't remember it, so okay, straight to F. Just, not even a question. All right. Well, but I've only done one run of it, so replayability, I guess, is in D tier because that's bottom. I don't know where you get an F tier from, mate. We already got to D. Our ABCs are a bit whacked. Length. I mean, we have the world record for it, but you know, it was a new category, so we'll take it. I'm gonna go D. I think D. I don't think it flowed that well. Time spent in the running that was nice. Like that, you know, it was an overall good game, and I probably would enjoy it more casually. But from a thingy aspect of it, I don't think I'd want to it's not very replayable. We might go back to it at some point, but who knows? But I think D. if anybody wants to throw some things out as well as we come back to these, feel free, we'll go through it. That's it. You got it. And you can always check out these runs over on SRC as well. Everything that we're talking about is available on SRC. It is all available on the YouTube side of things. Now we're on to Lord of the Rings Two Towers. Now there is a couple here for this, because we did do separate characters for it. So, fun-wise, I grew up on these games. So there's no question I'm not going to call it fun. Anybody who doesn't agree, you're a sadist. Just bottom line. No question. I don't care if it's so basic and minimalistic, and that's, you know, I still remember playing it on PlayStation 2 when it first came out, and playing the absolute hell out of it, and the co-op that went with it. Better than the other Lord of the Ring game? Which one? Lord of the Rings Two Towers, the old PlayStation 2 one. And this was based on... you know what? I will actually just categorize them all together. So I'll put the Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli all together. So you think it was higher? So replayability, I think, is definitely there because it's not too long. The length is good. It's about the hour sweet spot, which was quite nice. Downtime, there's not much downtime, which is fine. Flows quite well. Skippable cutscenes, yeah. I could agree with A tier. I'll agree with A tier. Does remind me that we will actually, Project, send me it. Just drop me that in a message. We will look at Return of the King at some point. Yes, there is that is for sure. I'm pretty sure there's a Gimli one in here. Where is it gone? There it is. All right, A tier, and we're going to put them all together because I've done runs for each of them. Actually, no. Gimli is D tier. I'm just going straight there. Let's just go straight in that context. Don't you just mash square with each character? Exactly. Like most thingies, it's that, but it's simplistic, yet it's nostalgia based. It's replayable because it's so simple. Are you telling me you never played these when you was a younger plank? It's just the more minimalistic standard beat 'em up. I'm not hating the game. But yeah, no, you are 100% right. You just go around and mash square. And also triangle on occasions, alright? And sometimes a circle for a parry. I think that was the thing. I think it was square for light, triangle for heavy attack, circle for parry. But yeah, effectively that. Now, the only reason I put Gimli at the bottom is because Gimli is trash. And I don't want to play Gimli again. Like Legolas, I can play all day long. It's fine. Legolas, I can be like, yeah, it's tier. Game I make are in H tier. No, they won't. The game you're making is in S tier, mate. S tier gaming. We're going H tier for him. So yeah, I'm going to go with that one. Now, we only did level runs for this. I'm contemplating revisiting this for the full one, so replayability's there. 40k Warhammer Space Marines 2. What are your thoughts on that, first of all? Specifically ops, right? It was specific to ops, yeah, and the runs we did. Projects, go on. No, go on, Project, say what you got to say. Yeah, these were based on the things that you can do the 90% for the full run, but the main runs, the ones we looked at, were specifically around operations, which they brought out new operations for, by the way, as well. So there is always that to contemplate and look at. Howdy Papiers, welcome in, welcome in. It wasn't my favourite run, okay. So, if I was going to go based on things, and this is my thoughts, it was a very similar, obviously for Space Marines, it's a very similar style. I was going to say, it's a very similar style to Gears of War. So, I mean, if you enjoyed that run as a whole, or watching that game, maybe that just had more nostalgia attached to it than what 40k does for you. But it's obviously the similar kind of combat style for that. You got your executions and all that kind of stuff. I'd say for fun aspect, I'd go a B. Replayability, because it was ops and specific leveling, I'd say A. Length of the ops isn't too bad. The full game is about 3 and a bit hours. So it's a little bit more lengthier. So if you were to go for the full run, but in terms of the ops, I'd say that's an A as well. RNG, I don't really think there was any RNG that made or broke that game. There was aspects that helped it, like there was one particular mission whereas like you had to search like 3 corpses, and sometimes you could be lucky and just get the thing there. So there was little pockets of it, but I don't really think it played a massive factor into it, unless you're chasing the really, really sweaty times. Downtimes and the runs, there was some parts where it felt like it was a bit slow because we had to wait for things to happen. I'd be okay to say C. C, low B, high C. Top of C. Yeah, I agree. I think that's fair for it. And obviously we'll come back to these after we've kind of all paired them off. Now, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, Blade Wolf DLC. Fun wise, I quite liked it. I thought it was an interesting run. I found it replayable for sure. Its length wasn't too bad because I think it was about half an hour run or something like that. I don't think there was massive RNG pockets for it. It was just more get good scrub and don't get owned. There's no downtime in the run, which is fine, which left it with a good flow. And I think skippable cutscenes was a thing. I think for the length of it and how it was, I put Blade Wolf an A, personally. I think it was a nice little run. It was nice and simplistic. It had some different aspects to it as well, because you got to sort of another character arc within Metal Gear Rising, which again, I think Metal Gear Rising was a great game, highly underrated. I know it wasn't Metal Gear, and that was part of the thing for it as well. It's not Metal Gear Solid. It's like, yeah, no, it's Metal Gear Rising. It's just it's a different aspect, right? It is, right? Great game. And on top of that, we got them to add in a glitchless category as well. So you can run that game glitchless. So you don't have to do all the skips and nonsense like that. Metal Gear in its story and message, yeah. In the story in that as well, but I guess it's more the play style and stuff like that. Because, you're not doing the stealth stuff and that. You're not Liquid Snake. You're not Snake or anything like that. You're some cyborg with a sword. I'd turn around and say A. I actually would put it above these, and I know people are going to be like, what? Just because I think it was a short enough run to enjoy and be a lot more replayable. Like Legolas and Aragorn's theirs was about an hour. That is about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. And I think that with those kinds of runs, they're quite nice little sweet spots just to kind of break games up a little bit. Like if you just want to send something random at the end of your day, like you've just been through a 3 and a bit hour run that's just died. It's like, hey, I'm just going to play something else. Send something just YOLO, why not? So I say A tier. Any furthers on that? You lot can counteract this if one of you want to say C or some shit like that, or D. We'll meet in the middle somewhere or work it out. But if silence I'm going to take as nobody has anything to say. Great, awesome. Streets of Rage. We've done loads of run in Streets of Rage. We've had loads of memes in Streets of Rage. You know, you've got survival, you've got individual levels, you've got the full game runs, you've got the co-op aspect. Ignoring the, like, let's just forget all that nonsense out there with those who shall not be named around that, all that nonsense. Because I don't care, they're not going to get that much time off my hands. Gotta go take everyone. Noah's Tool says, thanks for tuning in, good sir. Appreciate you. I would put Streets of Rage as an A tier because I feel like it has a lot to offer as well, and you know, anything that allows you to do it potentially co-op as well just makes the game stand out that little bit more. You know, the whole aspect of being able to just do some memory with your mates. So I'm thinking A tier. Do we have anything further on that? And I think it flows well enough as well, for sure. I mean, the game's obviously linear in what it brings to the table because of how simplistic it is, but it delivers. All right. Moving on from that then, Bully. I enjoyed the nostalgia feel I saw for, plus it kind of became a gateway in other games like it. Exactly. Like, thinking like that. I do feel like it sits there in a high enough place to say it was definitely a good one to play through Streets of Rage. Projects, I'm right there with you. Bully was the pinnacle of nostalgia. Like, I played a lot. I've played a lot of games in my years and that, but Bully is one that's always stood out. Was because it was obviously one of those that Rockstar went off and did something very different. It was like, okay, we're going to give you youngster GTA. This is what it'd be like, and it was a great game. It was great to play through. If you want to play through it casually, I would recommend it highly. We got enough clips of nonsense from it. There was RNG heavily in it, but I don't think the RNG was killer for the game. Downtime in the runs, there was a few pockets here and there. The game flowed well enough though. Like, you could skip all the classes if you really want to. There's only some that we took optionally to speed things up. So I'm gonna go S tier. I'm gonna go high A, S. Does anybody have anything further? I know Projects is out here like, yeah, S. Like, the run for it was just over 3, which in comparison to some of the stuff we was doing at that time is nothing. Exactly. It was nice to see some of this completely out of their characteristics. And I'll be honest, if they turn around and said we're going to do a Bully 2, that game would do well, because this game is still ran quite heavily to this thing. I still get notifications when people beat my times, as well as the fact of there's individual level runs into it. There's chapter runs for it. There's some kind of, I think there's some different challenge kind of runs. Let me just give you some more context as to what kind of things you can expect from it. All right, so Bully. Obviously you got the Scholarship Edition. Exactly, I know, and then it'll still never come out here because it would take 6 more years to do the press release, and then for them to realise, oh yeah, we're not going to do it now. We got bored. So you got all missions, all side missions. You got chapters. You've also got some category extensions on there. So you've got all bike races, all paper routes, Consumo, so that little arcade game, Halloween. You've got Perv%, which is that mission where you have to go and take pictures. You know, there's a lot of variety in what Bully had to offer. So we'll go S tier. Now, if I had a soundboard for this, I would do, but I think Cammy said it best. Cannon Spike. Now, a few of you have played this, so you tell me. Replayability, I think, is definitely there because it was sure. Yeah, see, Sancho's like, I hate that game. So Sancho's a straight up Steve. There's not even a conversation. I was like, nah. See for cannon spike. Get out. I'd agree. It was okay. Okay, so I don't know if you caught what we was going off Sancho. So what we're going based on is the fun side of it for runners and viewers, replayability, the length, any RNG aspects, downtime runs, how well it flows, and things like skippable cutscenes. I think RNG was that a thing in that one? Also, screw level 9. Yeah, definitely screw level 9. I think B's a good space for it. Yeah, I think B. I know Sancho's like, I think there's a little bit of RNG on the last levels. Yeah, that's me. But it wasn't enough to kill it. RNG if you got hit some. That's what I mean. So for yourself, then personally, you're going to see. Papaches, what are you thinking? Cutscenes were lame. Yeah, you know what? I'm shocked E33 isn't up there already. Well, Wicked Night, you know, instead of like thing, yeah, I'll not chime in, jump in the conversation. You gonna go B? All right. I'm gonna go B with potential that if it gets too cramped in B, it's going down to C. I feel like Sancho's right on the fun aspect. It may not be the funnest of games. Like, there's plenty of other shooter beat 'em ups that could be more. You know, we're going to see. Actually, it's going behind Warhammer, but it's more replayable than that, actually. No, it's not. It's going there. Yeah, they were. There was only some character. Mega Man was the best. All right. All right. Now, unless you've been through my things, you wouldn't have seen the runs for this. But does anybody remember the game Vanquish? I know Plank has. I know Plank remembers it. But okay, so Vanquish itself is a shooter game. Is very fast paced, very action packed. You're in like a sort of nano suit sort of thing. There's a lot of sliding combat. Watch the PC run Vanquish and it looks insanely fun, but I haven't tried it myself. I haven't tried the forerun. I've tried some of the missions. I'd be inclined to give it a go at some point. Based on the one I did for it, I would put it as I put it in B, with room for improvement on it. I think getting into the grasp of enjoying more of the game in the full game aspect. Okay. Yeah, I think B. I think we need more of it to see if there's anything that we particularly disliked about it. I don't think there was much RNG in it, if I remember. It was just more. It was definitely a more skill rewarding one. So if you knew what you're doing, if you knew everything at the back of your hand, like boss interactions were a good thing. So like for any games you enjoy where you have to fight definitive amounts of bosses, it was definitely good for that one. I'd say B. Sancho, you wanna go chime in this one? Castaway. Just going straight D tier. I'm calling it now. Sancho's like, no, get out, done. S tier. Okay. Now give me your reasoning. Why S tier? Why above some of all those games does Castaway hop into there? I mean, it's definitely replayable. The fun aspect, did it have that? I mean, I think it was okay. Easy to learn, hard to perfect. Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, the fun was there, but the fun did. It depends on what level you're running to. Like even when you'll say like when you get to the point where you're grinding it, the fun aspect does get lost. Yeah, of course. That's what. And you pick Bully. Everybody's banking one. The S tier is just gonna be filled with everybody's picked one. Me personally, based on its replayability, the length, the RNG aspects, because I mean the RNG sucked ass. Like I don't, that was one of those where RNG comes into it, because if that snake does you, your run's just dead. It's pointless. No, I'm not. I actually think it's up there, but I don't think it's S. If I was going to be honest about it, is the RNG is the part that does it. S tier is the objective, correct? Because it's my team signature run. Thank you. I rest my case. Welcome in, Nostro. Welcome in. No, the run is good. See, Nostro says S2. Yeah, he does. He does. But this is a collective. Like I'm saying A. I think it was a good run. The parts that bring it down for me, it had the most participants too. It did. 100%. The only parts that bring it down for me is, and why I say A not S, is the RNG aspect. And I know it's quick enough to reset. Plus, it has a dog's like the winning part right now. As soon as that snake cooks, as soon as that snake cooks, you're resetting. It does. Yeah, the RNG is interesting enough, but it's just that one aspect there, just that one point, and your runs are reset. Just because Snakey decided to go off on a stroll. I mean, that's fair enough. I can put it in D tier if you want a reason. If you want a reason, that's I would completely understand Nostro. No, but I do think it's A. I think I think it's A. Do we have anyone else in the bank of S? We've got 2 people voting for S here. So far, it's going to go in there unless somebody else has got something to say. S plus even. Yeah, shush. Sit down. You fucking biased git. I've had Plank walk in and say Resident Evil 2 is just S. I've got Wicked for E33. It's just S. Central, like, there's so much biased opinions right here. It's great. Okay. Sancho's opinion no longer counts. Okay. Projects, what are you saying then? S or A? A. All right. I think it goes above Streets of Rage, but it doesn't go above Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry, the nostalgia Piccolo makes Lord of the Rings more playable for me. I'd be more inclined to pick up playing Lord of the Rings. I'm also okay with a stronger B tier. I mean, it doesn't have a ton of no, it doesn't, but it is. So, if you didn't catch it, Nostro, so we're having an open conversation with this whole tier of things. So we're going based on the fun for the runner and the viewers, the replayability, the length of it, the RNG aspect, whether the RNG is just obnoxiously annoying and just like destroys the fun for you, or if it's interesting RNG where it's like, okay, well, it's not too bad, I can get around it. Downtime runs, how well it flows, and skippable cutscenes and things like that. I think A's suitable for it. For me, I still put Lord of the Rings 2 Towers higher just because I'd be more inclined to just play them. That is Blade Wolf DLC, which is a very short run for Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Alright, so Castaway is now behind Streets of Rage because, yeah, okay. Could go high A. Is it high A? It's all right, we're gonna come back to that. If we want to change this around later, we'll change this around later. Next one, Crisis Core. We will have final verdicts on some games if you want to pitch for it to go higher on that table, right? So Sancho, build your case. This is like that game, Guilty Sucks or whatever it is. Budget. Budget Stranger Paradise. I mean, I'd be more inclined to call it budget. Like, Stranger Paradise is more so in the realm of like Devil May Cry and that. Crisis Core is in like Kingdom Hearts' realm, the ATB kind of stuff. I'm gonna give it to that more so than playing. It's like our Final Fantasy 15 or whatever is like active time battles. No, I'd say it's the Kingdom Hearts is the one I originate from with that. D, it was painful watching you run from room to room, looking in peepholes and getting the codes wrong. That is fair. That is fair. And that's a valid thing. That's mean. It's from a viewer's aspect. Was it interesting? As Sancho said, no. Projects is coming on budget SOP. I'm gonna say that was a no. I'm gonna lower low as well. Okay. So personally, I enjoyed the run. I don't think it's massively replayable. I didn't want to do it. I couldn't do it back to back with the game itself. RNG was a pain. I'd be inclined to go. I'd be inclined to go low C. I don't think it's in the same grasp as Alone in the Dark. But I could be wrong. Sancho's out here choosing violence. He's like, haha, fuck you all, fuck you all, CKs. Sancho's like, yeah, there's a CK in the room. Fuck your run. Except for SOP. I mean, he knows that's the view count similarity between action RPGs and classic FFs. Oh, look, he's got one. He's got him, coach. I love the except the SOP part. I respect that, just that comment alone. I would say low C for that one. But then that might be a factor because I didn't spend enough time with it. But then again, I wasn't drawn into it as much. I enjoyed the game and I enjoyed playing through it. The story was good. Quality, that's quantity. Yeah, the quality does matter as well. There is that happy medium you have to find. All right. Excel, then, what do you think? Crisis Core, have your say, sir. Plank, what do you think too? I meant like FF7 remake, ER, not PS1 action. Waiting for a response, okay. They're so bad that they released that to speed. Oh no, that's me. I enjoyed it. I mean, like I said, I think mine's a little bit lower because I didn't spend as much time with it. Maybe after I refined it down a bit more, it possibly would be a higher up. Because we're going to come back to these at some point, and we're also going to talk over them. All right. So then, so for that, then I'm going to go. See, I think it's more Bucket D. I think it's better. I think it's more interesting than Warhammer was for folks. There was more to it, but yes, I can see the aspect of going room to room as being a thing. What points being? Okay. Okay. Here's an okay. Roguelike time. Darkest Dungeon. And by the way, if anybody watches this on YouTube, yes, I do have music. I'm sorry you won't get to hear it, so you will see me acting out my music. Streets of Rage F tier. Casually Darkest Dungeon is one of my favorite games of all time, but Speedruns, I don't know. And that is fair. I actually enjoyed the speedrun. Just the aspect of actually trying to get in. The RNG was a big part of that. But I found the RNG in that to be more enticing, just to see if you actually screwed or what characters you got, and if you high rolled into it and whatnot. All right, somebody give me a category. I'd go B. I'd go low B. But I'm open to input. C? Low B, high C. Okay. Above crisis core, I'm basically, I know Sancho's going right now. He's like, yeah. Crisis core, B's that. Or is it lower then? All right. Desolation of Mordor. So we're returning back to another part of Shadow of War. Personally, I really this was one of my favorite runs of Shadow of War. Personally, I guess I am going to have some bias here. It sounds ridiculous because like it was one of the it was one of the more difficult ones to get used to. But once you had it down, no, Baron or no. This is one where we play as Denzel Washington. This is the one where it's like you where the RNG aspects could make you. This is the grapple hook one, yeah. This is the one where you have that RNG aspect where you could pick up something and you could make the run just like basically you can make yourself OP. Like there was one that gets says if you kill from stealth you do like additional 100% or some ridiculous like I can't remember the stats for it. But yeah, you could get absolutely jammy and it would just allow you to cheese the run, or you could just not get in and you just go through it in a normal way. But I feel like there was enough there, and there's also the aspect of it is it should you said should you? I mean I'm pretty sure that's supposed to say shouldn't, but yeah, you're right, they definitely should have more parachutes and grapple hooks, 100%. I mean look, you said should now, so you contradict yourself. Yes, that's the one where you become worm food. But yeah, one of the aspects I like about this as well is like you only had one life. All right, if you got caught, there wasn't a retry, you would just reset the run. I know that can be seen as a negative, but I also like the aspect in that one was most of the time you're going to do that in a speed run anyway. It was just like it was also just good reason to do so. I'm going to go A. That's not a negative. Like, if you play through Terminator 2 D of Fate, you're playing through the hard difficulties, they have the aspects where you only get one life. Older games used to have the concept where you only get one life and you don't do the whole replay nonsense. And in terms of speedruns, technically we do that anyway. Like, if we die in a segment, 9 times out of 10, we're going to reset the run because the run's cooked. Depending on where we're at. I'm going to remain biased. I'm going to say A. I would say S, but I'm going to say A. Pap Shades, what do you think? Sancho's giving me the D already. He's already announced his hatred for it. He doesn't like Denzel Washington. You heard it here first. Projects, what are your thoughts? Anybody else? Plank? Where's Deathhound at these points, huh? He's a fellow Lord of the Rings fan. Effectively in that one, it was, yes. You're not wrong there. Say D. Okay. So we're going to put it in line with the other one there. I'll put it ahead of this one. Plank, remember when we spoke about you get involved in hatred? I voted for Splunky to be put in a special hell below F tier. No ranking is completely being proclaimed the absolute garbage game that it is. Reset farmer's ass. To be fair, I didn't reset that many times in that run. I'll be honest with you. That's the thing. So it wasn't that punishing enough that it was the case you had to reset. It's only if you didn't know what you was doing. So that's why I don't think it was that much of a punishment. It's not like not like playing T2 on hardest difficulty and like you have no life to get back. You're barely anything. You don't get additional weapons and stuff like that. Like that one's more reset hell. All right. Well, All right, we'll go for B for now. With space to move. Final Fantasy 1 speedrun. All right, so FF talkers. I mean, okay, so we already have one vote for D tier because Sancho is the advocate that he hates FF runs. I'm pretty sure I got that all right, Sancho. Right? That's the context we're going with. Too many menus. If one is pretty decent speedrun by you, it's fairly easy to pick up at least. Meep. I also ran F1 a different version. I thought it was alright. Way too long. I mean, okay. Well, I'm gonna give you context on how I like. Let's have a look. So obviously my run wasn't fantastic. That's factual. All right, pick to remaster. So, without any skips. So context, my run is garbage, by the way. Also, I'm not although I'm not last. I'll take that. I'm not last by a bit now. I'm like four people behind me. Yeah, go me. The run is supposed to be an hour and a half. Hour 38. That's the world record run. All right, so let's say 2 hours. I don't think that's too long, personally. I'd be an advocate to say B. Exactly, that's rather short. I think that's decent. Like, I'm taking out the characteristics and obviously my length of run because mine was like 3 hours. So that's because I was shit. Yeah, I know you're going off my run. So okay, yeah. So advocate against Gordo was shit on that run, and we got. Look, nothing beats the fact of we spent. Remember when we was doing our practice one projects? We was there for 5 hours because Chaos would not stop flaring me every single turn. Flare. Okay, he's like, can you stop nuking my team? I was like, dude, I've fought you about 20 times now. Super short road category in the other JPOGs, but this is playing the game fast. 90 minutes is pretty decent. D tier, okay, so Projects and Sancho are saying D tier. Nostro, I'm going B. I'm not gonna put it thing in C, okay? Excel, Plank, Thoughts. He had a flair for the dramatic. Damn right he did, Papa Shades. B, C, and D. Obviously, I know Excel, you ran this, so you have some context what you want to throw in there. C, okay. C, okay. So it looks like C to me. Version also does change that run after one on PSP has a barely any RNG, but about 5 menus and Chaos is kind of free. So B for your run and Pixel Remaster, I would say C. All right, fair. There we go. Yeah. And that's it. And that comes into it as well, because yeah, different versions have different things. Like mine did have elements of RNG because of the fact of we had to make sure that we get the petrify part way through so that we can keep 2 characters alive and they still keep stacking up XP. And then there was the part of looking for the fights and that, which could be a pain itself. Okay, Final Fantasy VIII. I'm just going to categorize Final Fantasy VIII as a whole. All right, so we've already got 2 votes for D from best weapon early by glitching and rinsed everything. Yeah, so mine was just without any kind of things. It was just petrify, get to the point, and then go ham with the monk. Okay, so we have 2 votes for D. We have an S for from Excel. Nostro, where are you landing on this? All right, Big Man Campus D. The controversy right here. FF8 and FF9 have to be at least B just for the soundtracks alone, which is an important aspect in Pix. I'd be inclined to say. See, I'm going to give one thing to FFs as well. From my aspect of running them, is the time it takes to learn them. Minus CSR as well. Mine are shorter runs. I've told him just to run CSR. You go A, okay. So we've got an S, we've got an A, we've got a B, we've got a few D's. I would go. I want to say high B. And that's not because I dislike it. I'm thinking of it from the aspect of your side of it and my side of it. No, actually, no. We'll go low A because the fact is that the amount of effort that goes into those runs, I'd say I'm going to say A. Any furthers to add? I'm also going to skip to this part of here, and I'm just going to say Final Fantasy X goes in the same bracket. And I know that's going to be a thing, but I mean, I'd put 8 and 10 in the same thing, to be honest. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't run on 7, 8, 9, or 10 either in pure literally just modulus forms because they are indeed long. Yeah, that's why I also for time constraints as well. That's why CSR has always been more applicable. I mean, if we can, okay, give me a reason, Excel, why 10 goes into that and why 8 doesn't. Why does 10 go into C and D? Why does 8 go into S? X isn't fun. First 3 hours are on rails. If you don't track, you don't complete with any good runs. You can learn and get good at and chase good times without having to. Okay, yeah, well, I get that aspect of it, but the only reason I would categorize them the same is because to me they're more or less the same. They are very scripted. Like there is very little room for things to go as wrong in either of those as long as you stick to the script. And even with Final Fantasy X True RNG. Yeah, 10 CSR is yeah, that's the only reason 8's up there. If we're going based on 8 or 10 normally, they're going D tier. Because I ain't doing it. They're going straight D tier. I think with the CSR aspect, it puts it more or less in the same boat. Because you're getting the main context out of the game. And it's not too long, it's not too grindy. Like I couldn't do between 8 and 9 hours in either of those games, and not because I dislike them, because I love both the games, but like I just at that point I just know. All right, so FF10 lost some points from Excel there, so it's going to be lower than 8. All right, any votes, any placements here? Sancho projects, are you going to stick with FFs or D tier? Am I just going to put you on that standpoint? Don't tell Kaiger or Kraken there, although they'll upset me. I mean, look, everybody has their own take. That's the whole point of these tier lists. These are all based on opinions and collections across the board. Okay, I am gonna go. Oh, I'm doing that. No, that's it. I still think these two are kind of just in sync with each other, and I'd be honest, I'm more partial to FF10 personally. I know there's the S-star menus, and I know that's why it gets S tier for one particular person. Just that menu alone is the only reason it's S tier. 100%. Hang on a second, folks. We're going to take a short intermediate break whilst we do this. Let me know in chat if there's anything you changed right now. I'll be back in just a moment. We'll continue the rest of this video. All right, we're back. Okay, so no one's got any things to change. Okay, moving on to the next one. FF9. Now, I have a level of bias here. The FF9 was my favorite one. I liked the RNG nonsense. Call me a sadist if you must. It's the one I spent the most time in. FF10 is Blitzball FF, yes. I put it above FF8. I did ask if there's any input projects. Do you want to chime in? We just thought we had it down as you had FF's all as D. 10 is S. Is that just for Blitzball alone? %. That's all I was going to say. Yes, it is. He was. Well, Excel's called it D. I'm so confused right now. I've got projects is now up S tier. Excel's gone down to D tier with it. For those who want to record evidence here, Nostro's just said outright it's just D tier all the way. And he also said big shout out to Kygo and Kraken. All right, Nostro 9, Excel 9. Give me your input. Yeah, FF runners. Yeah, this also is going on YouTube as well, so I'll post this for CKs to see. The run might be the game is S. See, I enjoyed the run. Okay, so I'm going to be biased, and I'm actually going to put it quite high. I put it higher than the other two. I put it in A for me personally. I spent more time on the run. I enjoyed the run. I like the aspects to it. I don't know why. There's only one. There was like one big-ish menu. There's some other parts that went with it, which kind of, you know, could cook you, but I felt like I enjoyed it more. And it wasn't, I mean, we know limits were not good. 90 sweet, it's got a CSR, booster category, long end percent category. There's plenty of RNG, of course, but you also get value choice. Yeah, exactly. I felt like there was more, and there's, once you get to a good point that you can get the, you know, get more consistent things like the Nova Dragon Death guys and stuff like that. That was just more time spent. And I feel like we got it down to a decent time. Personally, yeah, I would say A. But I'm open to people want to throw out a rating for it. Let's go. Let's meet in the middle here. I'm assuming I feel like we're gonna end up in B. I mean, if Nostra's got anything to say, fellow CKs, it's gonna go D. Every FF run so far is just like, yeah, D tier. It's mid. It's mid. It's mid. It's almost like he's not a fan. All right. I would say A. You know what? I'll make the call. We're going to make an educated decision here. Oh, okay. Interesting one now. First Berserker. I mean, I have to remain somewhat biased here because I obviously got to put together most of the runs. So, like, you enjoy yourself, babe. 2 secs. Huh? Good. Sorry, Miss Corder was offering me her bean, so that's it. First Berserker. That's it. Like, I am biased because obviously I tried to put together the categories like before Ultimate Challenge came out. We know we did the bosses only, the main bosses only, things like that. We have the individual stages for it. We have the chapters. We also had the recent event for the recent challenge run that took place for it for the Maluka percent. I feel like there's enough contrast in there to make it interesting. I would say I'd say A. But what about yourself as a viewer's aspect? No input? Okay. I'm fine with one of First Berserker, yes, projects. I say A. But I don't know how well it sat with you as viewers overall. I feel like there was enough different runs in there, and it wasn't too. Yeah, there was points of repetition, like moving around, traverse, and stuff like that. But that's like with any Souls one, whereas there's points where you just avoiding enemies. Okay, now I feel that this one might cause controversy. Resident Evil Village. Thoughts? And this one's open to the floor. I actually want to. I want to hear what you will want to say. C. Okay. Yeah, no, we're gonna scale it back afterwards. D. Oh. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Okay. Probably why did you hate the game so much? And Plank. Except that one funny after. Which clip do we have for that one? Insanely mid. Okay. I honestly, I wasn't expecting that from you, Plank. I respect. I do respect it though. It means you're not just the RE through and through. Like you have your particular favorites. No, you're thinking RE4. That was RE4. Hang on, so you hated 4? Yeah, RE8 was the one with Lady the big ass tall like Excel's dummy mommy session. Yeah. Exactly. Excel, come on, give me some. What are your thoughts here? We got a C from Plank. Projects doesn't know where he is right now. Now, Projects, now that you know which game it is it still a D? You haven't liked any of the newer ones. Okay. I put it above 7. I mean, don't get me wrong, we never 7's never got verified. But still. All right. Does Village beat Crisis Core or not then? And the rest of these here, or is RE8 going to the low end of C? You're thinking of the 7. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna leave it there. I personally I didn't mind the run that much. But I'm liking the variations here. Okay, let's find 7. 7 we're saying is like, yeah, here I guess. I didn't mind 7. I don't live for it. I'll be honest. That might just be the sour taste of like the fact of every run there's always some mistake that went across with it. Very bottom. Okay, all right. Fair. Honestly, this also gives me information as well, folks, because I've asked all of you questions before about runs, and this is actually giving me verdicts on where you will stand with it. So thank you for this information. This was a great idea. Eight was okay. I didn't mind 8 because it was a bit more faster pace. I can get 7 was felt a bit slow in places. Gungrave Gore. Now we only did boss stages only, which wasn't a massively long run. It was about 50 minutes to an hour. It was almost effective like an auto shooter, some boss battles and stuff like that. I think it was decent. It wasn't too extensive. I think it's definitely replayable because it was quite simplistic as well. But all around a good game. So for me, I'd probably go B. I'd probably go low B for Gungrave, just above Vanquish, just because I spent more time in that than I Vanquish. So I can't really. To be fair, I think with the amount of time spent in Vanquish, I don't think it can sit at B. To be fair. Because we didn't spend that long in it. We spent less. We spent about the same time as we did in 40k. But yeah, Gungrave. Any thoughts? I think B, on the pure aspect of, I think it's replayable because it's quite straightforward. It's quite niche. Not overly hard to learn, but yeah, the game had a cool aesthetic to it as well. And definitely, in terms of if anybody wanted to run it. Exactly. It was for me. If you wanted to do if you want to learn a speedrun, Gungrave is a very good introduction because it is so very basic. The only thing it comes down to is the route, which is quite linear anyway, but position of enemies is more so the thing you have to memorize and what you need to do with bosses. So yeah, I think you're right. Low B, high C. Hades. Right, Hades fans, come climb out the woodwork. So we're saying Hades should be right here with Darkest Dungeon then, basically. From your aspect, Nostro. I feel like it should be... Yeah, Hades is a bit too stop-start for my liking, so your flow is lower on that one, okay? Any other things that are in there? Any more negatives, folks? I can agree with it, because... No worries, dude. The aspects of, like, looking at the runs for... So the world record for Hades... Yeah, is like 6 minutes. I'm never going to grind that enough. I enjoy it, and I'll like happily throw out the runs, and I do enjoy playing the game. I'd say it's up there in comparison to some of the other ones for like for the runs. Like Darkest Dungeon, I can accept a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit too slow in places. Hades did have some quick fire action when it needed to be. I think the worst part for, like you said, Plank with the flow is like when you get stuck in one of the rooms, which is you have to survive for 45 seconds. Now, it doesn't sound like that's practical for a speedrun, but the in-game time actually does stop for that time as well. Part of the aspect of that speedrun is maneuvering through the correct rooms. So, like, I think in shops, the timer stops. I think in the survival rooms, the timer stops. Going through the underpart to take, like, those additional perks that give that come with a negative to them, that's where the timer stops. There's places where you can try and get through the run, but you're inclined to do it on a lower threshold, so you're getting lower levels of buffs and that to get through things. Castlevania, I don't think anyone's seen me run through that. I would put it in the same aspect of like Darkest Dungeon, maybe a bit further up. I quite enjoyed these kind of games. They're like very Metroidvania. This one was. Yeah, I'm just gonna put it there because I don't think anybody's watched my runs for that one, so that's fine. Hotline Miami. Now, great game. Nice and short levels. Definitely replayable because the amount of times you died, you'd have to replay it anyway to get anywhere. I think there was some interesting text with the speedrun side of things. Some were a bit tricky to pull off. I'd like to say high C. If you're a mechanically solid in Hotline Miami, it's probably a good run, I'd reckon. Yeah, no, it definitely is, and there are some interesting parts to it as well. So there's one where you basically bait someone to come outside, and if you knock them down in a particular aspect near the vehicle, then go to grab onto them. So like, no, you know, when normally grabs them to start smashing the head against the ground. If you do that in the correct angle, you get back in the vehicle and skip the level. So there was actually some interesting points there, some of the skips that happen there. Like you can manipulate so you can just like completely bypass the level. So I think that game has a lot of potential. It's just, I think you'd have to spend a bit of time in there making sure you are, like you said, mechanically solid. You know what? I'd probably say B. It's not roguelike enough where it's just reset that resetting. It is like there is the fundamental end to the game. I threw this one on here for the sake of it. Metal Slug X, folks. What do we think to the run? What do we think to the game? No worries, still Nostro. Thank you for that one. Yep, I agree. Straight D tier. Straight D tier. I mean, if they got us the court case that Nostro wanted, we would have gone to S tier, but no, I think straight D. Yep, 100%. Alright, so while we've got you here, we'll go with Metal Gear Solid 2 XL. You can have some chime in here, because I think particularly this was a good run. But also, I'm going to need you all that weren't runners of it to offer up some input. I think Tanker's A tier. It was short, sweet, and straight to the point. I'd say low A, because there were parts in it that were a bit of a pain in the ass. But I think it's a good run. Yeah, I think so too. I also think Plant. I think I enjoyed Plant more than I did Tanker. I know Plant was longer, but I think there was more mechanics in it. The only thing we didn't like about it was Harrier. A for sure. Yeah, I agree. You know what? We are going to rejig these a little bit. I think that is fair, or looks fair to me. VR missions, I would go C. I'd go low C. I know, I did put you on a train there of running it. Like, I was like, oh yeah, dude, I'm going to learn this run. I was like, you learn it too? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Then 2 weeks later, it's like, yeah, I'm still going, mate. It's like, which was great to see. Honestly, great to see. The VR missions for MGS2 and all that stuff on Metal Gear Solid, I'd put as B. They actually, I just put high C actually. I'd say they're good, but they're just highly repetitive. Actually, I'd probably go lower than that, because I do think they are just highly repetitive. I'm not going to put that D just because of that one guy, because I actually still enjoy that run. That person will not tarnish that. Like, Metal Slug tarnished it because we never went back to it. Even though I was tempted to the other day, I was like, do I just go and send enough runs it? But based on moderation, it will drop to B. I'll add that in there. Okay, I still think. Okay. So basically, Plank, what's Gordon known for? Sending a random run, right? Just picks a game and says, okay, I'm just gonna do a run, folks. We'll put the time on, and we'll complete the game, right? That's what we do. So we did that for Metal Slug. Now I hadn't played like that particular one at all. I played other versions of it, but I hadn't played that particular one at all. I had no clue what I was going into. I know it was a side-scrolling shooter and all that kind of stuff. I had no idea of strats. I had no idea of anything else at all. I was just blindly playing through it and trying to see if I can learn as we go. The run itself is very short. Obviously, mine came in at a more exaggerated time, which was I was not being cheeky with my submission. A game was completed in one sitting. By the definition of a speedrun was complete. And then I merely sent it back, the definition of a speedrun, when I submitted again. Alright, I sent the run back in and I just gave them the definition of what they were verifying, just in case they weren't sure. I wasn't cheeky, that was factual. But yeah, they came back to me, it's like, okay, if you're not even going to put any effort into it or make an attempt in that, it's like, we can't verify, because if you're not going to, spend time in the game, it's not worth you being here, basically. So effectively, if you were a new person who just started speedrunning and that was the first game you ever chose and you sent a dog shit run, they would reject you. Just on that principle alone. It doesn't matter if you've done it before. So that's the story of Metal Slug. Metal Gear Rise and Revengeance. Now, personally, I think we're a fan of action RPGs and that kind of stuff here. I do think it's like Stranger of Paradise, and I think it's something we play into quite well, and we do enjoy them. I've noticed that to be a bit of a theme. We like those kind of styles of things we get on well with. I would say A. Because I do plan to return back to it at some point, because I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the aspect of the games. I enjoyed the play style for it. Anybody else? Any votes on it? I'm going to go up to A here. I think it's above Blade Wolf. I did like the full run. I do like the DLCs just for the length of them. I'm actually just going to... Yeah, I want to put Sam next to Blade Wolf as well. I'm not sure which one I like better, but Sam or Thingy. I think Sam was just that little bit quicker, which made it more... Thingy. And plus, you know, if we're taking monitors into account, then perhaps Castaway does deserve another bump up there because your favourite. You're right. Yeah, you're 100% right. No, we'll bump it up just for that aspect alone. Yeah, I think A is fair. Like Excel will never get behind it. All right, he will still hate collision boxes to this day. You know what? We'll just do the Resi 2 stuff together. I've only got 2 things in there for it, which is No Time to Mourn and... Actually, we'll go through them separately. Okay, No Time to Mourn, Resident Evil 2. How do we feel the run was? I felt like with the shorter runs, there was a lot more... There's a lot of things to take into consideration rather quickly. So... replayability is definitely there because you had to take time just to send it. Yeah, exactly. They're awesome, but at the same time, it's like, well, this is just toxic. But when you get them down, it's the satisfaction. And it was like, okay, we got that. Okay, maybe we could do it again quicker. Kind of run at MO, it's like 4 minutes. There's not much going on. Only about 5 encounters at most. I did hit this in like an hour. Exactly. I think it was okay for what it has to offer because it is only short. Like, for those who haven't lived in the game, I think there's sufficient enough things to do and things to take on board and get used to within it. And I think it's a nice little entry one. You could use it to get more adept at certain things within the game. I would say B. Yeah, I think B. I don't think there is enough room for improvement. Exactly, you just do the route and profit. At least in full game, there's route changes and perhaps slow. But yeah, but I'm talking to like somebody who walk into not knowing the game at all. Like if you were to blindly walk into it, I think there's enough points in there to learn things quickly within it. I don't think there's much room for improvement, like times wise, and that no, but like more of like your movements and things like that within the game. RE2A. Yeah, I agree. Actually, you know what? I can't really put Kendo there. Yeah, that's it. Hang on. Yep, that's fair. All right, bin it is. No, in all honesty, did I just lose that now? There it is. Yeah, no, I'd say it's in there as B. I don't think I enjoyed it, but once you get to the point, like in speedrun aspects, when you get to the point, it's just reset hell. No, I enjoy the game, like I enjoy the run when I did it. I could, you know what? Do you get snow? Are you okay, Wicked? Yes, we get snow here. No, you know, I'll give it its credit. In terms of an introduction to speedrunning, there is enough things. I mean, you're a bit further away than, than me, Wicked. I mean, I'm in the UK, mate. So your snow right there isn't snowing right here. Just in case you weren't aware of how that works. Like, when it's your night time, it's not our night time. But yeah, so I'd say that's fair for it. I can't put up there as a top tier one because I wouldn't want to. I'm gonna give you shit, Wicked. All right, I like it. You making me chuckle because like you pop in every so often with a random thing is like intrusive thought. Wicked's on like dealing with intrusive thoughts tonight. Just like it's just woke up and just like types. Yeah, I'm awake. Is this snow? Snow where you are? We got snow. Yeah, I think for Res 2, if anybody would want to do speed running, and you want an introduction, I think it's a good place to go. Do I think it's something you should stick with? It depends on how much you really want to commit to it. Personally, it wasn't for me. I didn't want to commit to it. I had no intensive purposes of selling my soul to that game. But I enjoyed it for the time I did it for. And who knows? Maybe we'll go back at some point. Onimusha. I think it was a good run. As someone who did commit to it, I don't do it. I save yourselves. Nah, I'll tell you what's on mine. I appreciate it, Wicked. You random side. So we did the ultimate run, which I mean, we got the weapon that allows us to like just go through the rooms as much as possible, as long as you get the right, as long as you picked up the weapons and stuff like that. I think in terms of the run, I think it's a nice, straightforward run. There are definitely places you can lose the run, like the very end boss, and sometimes it's just because when he wants to be a dick. And that in itself, like unless you waste time, hit and save, I think that in itself is just the big thing. Like, there's no real other bosses that can cause issues, just him, because he does all these toxic stuff, like grabbing you out of nowhere and then just one-shotting you, or he just wants to breathe fire at you and yada yada yada. But it wasn't a bad run. Yeah, final boss, that dude, the one that just grabs you for no reason. It's like, oh yeah, one shot dead, Nate. Oh, okay, cool. Good job I didn't save throughout this entire run, because that's time loss. But I think it was a good run. I think there was enough in it. I don't know how interesting it was, because I mean, I don't know, because people enjoy Resident Evil runs, and that to me is like similar to what Onimusha is, but obviously a different style. You know, the whole concept of going between room and room, having a few puzzles and that. Still gonna get bed now. Let me give you my verdict. FF7 right here, a lovely, phenomenal game, but if I've ever seen Midgar again, Dragon Tide 2 offers that cannot be recommended to anyone who doesn't want to marry the game, because step count is an absolute nightmare. I mean, I'm doing remakes. So you might see Midgar again, but it'll be nice and pretty. That'll be next week. I think it's next week. Yeah, literally a week. Also now. Payday runs. It is, and I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it because we're going to be playing it casually. All right. Feel free to check that out when it releases here at Gordo's Games. I think for the most part, some Payday there's some aspects on Payday which were good and interesting to try and run. I think my favorite one was Car Shop, which is also the most annoying one, but I think it was actually the most fun one. And generally for playthrough and for the run itself, because I did the run for it too. But I don't think there was enough variation for it, so I would put it down here. But that could be leaving room. I mean, if you're down to do it again, I'm here for it. If you wanna do something, I'm gonna make it a point to do some more co-op stuff in terms of runs. So if you want to get involved, like we're looking at Red 6, so hit me up. We'll look at it as well. Are you saying bump it up then? Payday 2, folks. And any takers on that higher than C, or are we at C? C is right. Okay. All right. Quidditch. I'm just gonna put low C. I'm not gonna put it in D because it's just a meme run. It's like when like a few weeks ago, when you did your FIFA red cards. You can't hate it. It's very simplistic. It's just there to do what it does. It's not the worst. It's just very, very simple. There's nothing like remotely that technical about it. It's just score the goal as quick as you can, win. Yeah, that's my advice. I wouldn't put it in a D because I feel that's harsh to do so, because red cards on the same level as a kendo run would be like 4 times as fun. There you go. There you go. But I don't think I can't justify putting it any higher because there's not exactly mass amounts to learn to it. It's just do the bit. Schedule 1 S tier. Somebody fight me on that. Someone fight me or somebody join me, because fun aspect wise, I think everybody enjoyed it collectively. I've worked on keyboard. I can go back to it. Yeah, I think I don't know Excel. I know you came into it blind, but I still think even you enjoyed it. Projects loved it. Sancho loved it. I think the chat vibed with it as well. They made for some great content for clips and all that stuff as well. I think Schedule 1 was great. Is there any downsides to it as much? I don't really think there was that much of a downside to it. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm down to do more. I mean, I'm like, I wanna throw more co-op-y things out there as well, just for the fun aspect of it. So Schedule 1, we'll come back to it. Who knows? There might be some more things like that we can have a gander at too. Because there's also the things like Peak. I know Alan's been an advocate of that one. Who knows? We could try that. I'm going to be biased. Slay the Spire, I'm going to put straight B. I think Slay the Spire is interesting in the aspects and how that game works. I think is good enough to make it interesting, and I think it can be quicker paced than the likes of Darkest Dungeon, but not as slow as Hades. You can, as long as you know what you're doing, Slay the Spire, you can blast through it pretty quickly. FF7 Midgar percent. This is specifically a Midgar percent. All right. I'm gonna say all right, I'm actually gonna put this one up one because it had Dollet as well, just to make it a shorter run. With Midgar, I'm gonna go there for it still. Yeah, I feel like I'm being biased myself. As soon as I did that, I was like, I feel like I'm being biased to like any FFs right now. I think we'll go there then. Just because it's only mid-car percent. Yeah, no, that's it. That's just it. That's just it. But this is that. But like I said, Blank, it also gives me. It also gives me an idea for all of you, like for any of your lot's input. It also gives me an idea of what things were received well. Because like right now, I can turn around and say it's like, okay, people want to see bully runs and schedule 1. Okay, great. I know that people would happily watch Metal Gear Solid 2 runs, or you know, Res 2, Metal Gear Rising, Stranger Paradise. I'm gonna be biased as hell here. I'll let somebody else answer first. What do we think? Stranger Paradise, action RPG, Devil May Cry kind of variant. A, okay. Did you go straight for the S? Okay, let me try. Oh, as a fellow suck person, I'll say that's fair. I mean, Sis did vote for the S. I mean, trust me, I was tempted to put an S just because of the game itself, but I have to be. I have to take into consideration the different aspects of for viewers. Like, Stop might not be as fun for others to watch in comparison to some of the other pieces. And like, I like the new DLC. I like the DLC runs that are attached to the game. I'd say a strong A. Personally, I feel like the game has enough to be interesting. I feel like the run is interesting. I mean, I got to do it at GDQ. Like, well, what can I say? Okay, if that doesn't warrant it a top spot, and that's being biased, then unless anybody thinks it should be lower, because I'm happy to like mix this up here, but I think there's enough in that game that makes it interesting. The end game content is good. There's even runs for it to obviously make it applicable. Yeah, we're going for the aspect of like trying to make them into like new game plus runs because we're trying to be OP. But even taking it outside of it, like the rift climbing as well, just from a challenge aspect of things outside of speedrunning, is generally fun to do just to see how far you can push it. Team Beauty Tales I will put in the same aspect as Streets, just because they're obviously made by the same people. It's a very similar game. Obviously it's a great game, but it's just very similar, like identical. I did these randomly offline. Trials Fusions. Who likes Trials games? You know, back in the days of Miniclip when you was in IT at school and all that kind of stuff. Who doesn't love a little miniature Trials game here and there, right? Yeah, you see, sat there in IT, like, okay, teacher's not looking. Yeah, I could do this. Or what was it? Free Kicks. That was the other one. I know, right? It's a great game. I honestly, I like. You know what? We should have done something like that for a monthly challenge. That would have been something different at random. I honestly didn't find it bad to like do the little things for, because I mean, they're challenging games on their own anyway. But I'd put them up there, like they were more interesting to do than Metal Gear Solid's thing. Like VR missions, they were just highly repetitive. This is repetitive, but at least there was aspectly fun. Okay. Stranger Paradise. We're gonna put these here. I think that's fair to go with. Oh, okay. Let's go for a controversial one. Van Wheel. Simpsons Hit and Run. Now, we've all played it. We've all enjoyed it. But where does it sit to you? I would. That's gonna sound horrible to say, but I'm gonna go low, mid to low C. I enjoyed it, but I didn't realize how much. I mean, there's a lot of refinements you need to do in that to get to the times that people get it to, but it got a little bit too repetitive for me. That was my problem. It just got a little bit too repetitive. Okay, Celeste. Honestly, I actually think Celeste runs are interesting. The game is nice to watch. The music's good. The vibe's good. The flow's great. I wanna go and say high B. I want to say high B. Alan would say S. But I think the game's interesting enough to watch and interesting enough to see. And you know what? When you get it down and when you have all the text, like I want to watch Alan, it looks crazy. Like, you know what? I'm gonna actually put it up here because I think the replayability in these ones is more up there. I think Celeste has enough to it, and obviously there's enough because you've got the individual levels, you've got the A side, B side, all that stuff. You've got the full game and that stuff. I think, and yeah, like you said, if you once people have got the runs down, they're impressive when you see them being done. Cuphead. Me personally, I enjoy Cuphead. Its level of difficulty is definitely up there. Even when you do it on simple, difficulty is still up there. What are thoughts? Do I think it's in the same category as Celeste? Possibly. I mean, it's just Cuphead's like renowned by itself just for being like thingy, but yeah, Celeste AB. Yeah, I think yeah, AB. So let's go high B. I'm gonna put Battle Chasers. I'm gonna put it in mid. I'm gonna put it in like thingy, not because I dislike it, but I think it's too early to say anything bad or good about it. And me and Excel are working on the runs to see if we can add more fun stuff into it too. Okay. Yes, work in progress. I'm gonna throw this here, and people can chime in as well. I enjoy the little running gunners, like Gungrave Gore, but obviously in Pixel. Gunner's Heaven or Rapid Reload. I think mid B. I think it was a good little run. I think it was a good game. I'm going to suggest it to you all for next month's challenge. The reason being because I recently took over the boards. Yeah, because that's what I do. And I'd like to see more of you run it. But I think mid B. I think it was interesting enough to run. I think there's an interesting enough fights, and it was easy enough to get cooked in it. But it was rewarding when you got it done. Does anybody have anything else on instead of a B? Any takers or anything less or more? No, I'll go silence is a no. Van Wheel gone. I'm gonna go D. We did that for a challenge. there is nothing. There's technically nothing wrong with the game. It just kind of sucks. Like, I could go back and run it and just put the thing on the board, but it just kind of sucks. Like, the game's whole aspect in that didn't do anything for me in the slightest. Night Rain. Any takers on Night Rain? I'm gonna call Excel says D. And his response will be just play Elden Ring. I called it. I think Night Rain, I'm not a fan of Night Rain, to be honest. And I think it's one of those, I think it definitely got that rap, either you liked it or you didn't. You know Dance can grab tube. I did not know that. Wicked, what would you say? In terms of the speedrun for Night Rain, and which is basically the concept of actually the normal game, just get it done as quick as possible. Would you say it would be enjoyable? The only reason I wouldn't put it in the bin is because it's good with friends, and I would say C. I agree with C, just because solo, no. Add in co-op to it, you know, like add in the likes of Alan and Sancho and that, or Excel and all that being involved. That saves it a little bit, just for that aspect. And I know you're going to say do seamless co-op, Excel, which is fair. But I mean, just in terms of the speedrun, like Night Rain is more accessible than doing Fun Thinger. Yeah, it can. It really is not. It received a lot of hype, but it's not like the crescendo of gaming. Yeah, and that's fair. I would go down here. I would say low C. Personally, I wouldn't put it in the bin. Just for the fun side of things, I would put the aspects of it being one with the gang. Resident Evil 3 remake. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Do this for Simon. Just from Source multiplayer experiment for future games with seamless co-op. Yeah, exactly. I think that's fair. I think if we really took a moment to listen to Simon and what he has to say, I think he talks some sense. I think story-wise, there's definitely more story involved with it. Yeah, the speedrun, there's just lots more tech involved. It's very seamless in how it's played. Said that they're not planning anything else after the DLC. Boo. Like the character choices are better as well, I guess, because you get to play as Carlos. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's thing. I'm not going to put it in the bin. I think in terms of it, it's still thing. The only thing with the Res 3 is the weird ass dodge thing that goes in there. And I guess from a speedrun aspect, that's actually a bonus. Well, I'm putting it low. I'm sorry, Simon. Hit me as much as you want. I'm biased, but somebody tell me no. The interact changes make the game feel like. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, good old power station. Expedition 33. Are we talking the intro for Res 3 remake? That intro part? Okay. Yeah, no, that's why I always ran it with no intro. As soon as they gave me that category, I was like, yeah, sure, I will go with no intro. Absolutely. 100%. Expedition 33. Somebody E33S or an A, even with the prologue spinners. Yeah, I think the runs are interesting enough. So for me personally, as a person who runs it, I find it highly rerunnable. replayable. I think the game's great. I don't think it's uninteresting. You're not. So for those who disliked the obviously the FF ones for the mass dialogue bashing, you don't have to do that so much in that. You got skippable cutscenes. Probably my favorite, but it's actually, I mean, that's a different take. That's a different take. I say it's high S. I wouldn't put it above Bully or Schedule 1. I actually think Schedule 1 does go first over Bully, if I'm going to be honest. I think Schedule 1 offered more just for the aspect of having the co-op, the multiplayer aspect of it. 100%. But yeah, I think that's fair. That high A or S. Well, I'm going to go with S for now. Like said, last few. Gears of War Reloaded. Now, I've only done one run, that was with Simon. I mean, the nostalgia aspect to me, I'd say gets it a mid B. Right off the bat. I wouldn't put it any higher than that because I don't think it's needed, but I would say I'd say mid B is fair for Gears. It's great games. I have no idea, to be honest, Wicked. Yeah, I think you're right. A or B for Gears is fair. I think I've got mid B because in terms of it, like, you're not going to get massively quicker with it. It's just going to be a case of, you know, it was more enjoyable just to play through it. So I mean, that means like Simon played through it, you just vibe through the entire thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, our run we could do better because we now know how to kill the last boss instead of being dipshits and be like, oh shit, how do you get rid of him? Oh yeah, we needed the grenade. Okay, Resident Evil 6. I'm gonna go high B. Ninja Gaiden D. Am I reading that rightly? We'll go to, hang on, we'll move that out of here for a second. So Wicked, you're saying D for Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. See, I'd go low B. Me personally, I think low B. So I think high C, low B. I'd be more inclined to go B. I think once you can see like the runs put together and you can see it functionally put together, I think it's more enjoyable to watch. I think at the moment, because mine's so scarcely over the place, it's a bit more. But trust me, it's impressive when you watch the run as a whole. No, it's not invalid. I know, technically I haven't done it yet. I'm still working on it, Wicked. I'm still working on it as a whole. I do the level runs for it just to get used to it all. I'm gonna go with low B because I think it's more interesting and more technical than Res 3. Sorry, just saying. So it's a harder game, and I think it's more rewarding when you get this down. Like, this looks interesting when you see this in its entire fruition. It looks pretty slick. And I think that's when it becomes more enjoyable. I think, yeah, at the moment, it probably is about a high C, just based on what you've all seen so far, with potential to become a B. Res 6. I'm gonna say my part. I think Res 6 is up here. And that is mainly for the speedrun aspect of things. There is a lot of content in there. There's multiple different things to go through, so different campaigns to go through. There's the variation playing between the two different individual characters, so you get to play it from two different perspectives. It doesn't do well, no, 100%. But I think it's fair there. I think there's enough in there that makes it interesting. I think, yeah, the co-op and that just kind of wins it in the aspect of playable, replayable, and fun. Zone of Enders. A nice short run. I don't think it's going to be well received by any of you, because some of you probably haven't even heard of it, besides the people who've watched my run, or those who've ran it themselves. I think I can agree. I really like the run for Zone of Enders because it is very, like, shortish. You know what? Sorry, Cuphead. I agree. I'm the only reason it's going like B is just purely just buy for 10 on PC. Nice. They're good to hear. I'm glad you got some influence from Excel streams and that as well. I'm only going B because, like you said, not as many people enjoy it. But keep an eye out for SBL. We'll be running the second one soon. So I think high B, potential to be A. But again, it's not as well received just because of its age in gaming. All right, last but not least, the one we played most of all, Terminator 2. I'm going to let you all have your say before I have mine. See, okay. Any further on C? Nope. Just paid me a day early. I don't know if I should be worried or not. No, I'm sure you're fine, mate. I would like to say high to mid B, but I would say mid. I think in terms of, like, for the same reason as Res 6, okay, it's not got the co-op that Res 6 has, but there is enough variation, there's enough runs, there's enough content in there, there's enough replayability. I mean, you've got 4 different difficulties. Those difficulties change how the game's played and how difficult it is for you, which means you have to adapt to each one. You've got the aspects of the boss rush mode as well, so nice, short and sweet. I think it is exactly what it says on the tin. It is effectively a arcade game. It's basically a shooter. Nice and simple, nice and sweet. And the main thing for me that wins it over is it's a retro game, but you are every scene within that game makes you reflect back to the film. Because obviously we've been playing that a lot. How many people here wants to go and watch Terminator 2 off the back of it? I know I have. I know Alan wanted the other day. Anybody else? Anybody thought to himself, I want to watch T2? Because that's the aspect I've got from it. The first thing I think is like, I want to watch. Exactly. But that's mean. I feel like it delivers just what you need from it, and it's nothing too fancy, it's nothing too out there. So I think it does enough to sit mid-table, but I don't think it gets any higher than that because there's only so much limited. T2 Terminator 2. You've watched Terminator Wicked. Please tell me you watched Terminator. Don't tell me you're too young for that. All right, so wrapping up this tier list then. So let's just recap it for our winners of the day. Schedule 1, Bully and Expedition 33. Why not just say that Judgment Day is Pete? T2. Terminator 2. T2. I think it's fair to say Schedule 1 was most enjoyed run across them all, purely from an aspect of co-op, shenanigans, mishaps, mayhem, the lot. and is the clear winner. In terms of myself running it, and in terms of people watching it, it had all stuff. Yeah, okay, there's some meme stuff in there, which I guess you could consider annoying, but just on the fact of it weren't a long run, it wasn't that much of an issue. I think Bully itself is fair. The only reason it's sitting there above Expedition 33 is because I feel like Bully's nostalgia made it more interesting to watch from a different perspective of a Rockstar game comparison to Expedition 33, which was a great game, but also for some people might have been a little bit slow for what they wanted from it. And also with, you know, some of the menus and traversal, that might not be something that they generally wanted to sit there and watch through, whereas Bully was quite just on the go for the most part. I don't think there's anything in A tier I'd change. I don't think there's anything I'd change there at this point. I feel like for the most part, I think that's a pretty solid list. Agreed? We settled? We happy with that? All right. So there is Gordo's Games Speedrunning Year in a nutshell. This is how we look to the run from the aspects of myself running it, you as the viewers watching it. I had your input, my input, and this is what we came back with. This is going to also give us an idea of how we can tailor some content for you all going forward as well. So appreciate your hats taking the time to have some input. Maybe you may see some influence around it. Who knows? It might be these games. It might be games similar to them, just to kind of throw in there. But you will see going forward here at Gordo's Games. And if you do enjoy this content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And if you do feel like chatting about them or offering some input with some of these runs, don't forget to hop in the Discord as well over at Gordo's Games and the Enib Centers. Thank you for tuning in to Gordo's Games. Schedule 1 speedrun seems wacky. Oh, they're great.